keep a straight face watching the Chosen cast behind the scenes? Think again. Because what happened on the Season 5 set was pure comedy chaos, between the jokes, the unexpected one-liners, and the cast completely losing it in. The middle of serious scenes. This is the Try Not to Laugh edition. And trust me, if you make it through Luke Dimeian's shoulder moment, or Noah James breaking character during a prayer without laughing, you're stronger than most of us. This isn't just a collection of bloopers. It's a backstage look at the moments that prove this cast is as hilarious as they are talented. And yes, you're about to see why fans say Jesus himself, Jonathan Roumie, might just be the undercover prank king of the entire set. Let's dive into the cast chaos from The Chosen Season 5 and try not to laugh.
Not here to be sentimental and soothing, I'm here to start a revolution. Could be Kendrick.
Let's start with the moment everything fell apart in the best way possible. It was supposed to be a quiet, emotional scene, one of those moments that defines The Chosen. But what the cast didn't expect was that Luke Dimeian, known for playing Judas with raw emotion, would completely sabotage the take with a perfectly timed joke. The cameras were rolling, emotions were high, and right before the director called action, Luke whispered something only the cast could hear, and the entire group burst out laughing. What makes it even funnier? Jonathan Roumie, who plays Jesus, tried to hold it together with that classic calm expression, but even he cracked. And once Jonathan breaks, everyone else follows. That moment spiraled into 5 ruined takes, each funnier than the last. You could see the cast trying to pull themselves back together, but Luke just kept going, deadpan unfazed and clearly loving the chaos he'd created. And this wasn't the only time. Luke has become something of a legend on set, not just for his intense performance as Judas, but for the way he brings unexpected humor into the most intense scenes. There's something about the way he switches from serious to absurd in seconds. And when he's paired with Noah James, aka Andrew, you can guarantee the entire cast is in trouble. One of the funniest behind-the-scenes moments came during a cast interview. The topic was deep, how playing these biblical figures changed their lives. But the second Noah tried to answer, Luke leaned in and said, "Tell them about the fish." That was it. Just that one line. Everyone lost it. Noah couldn't. Stop laughing, and the interviewer didn't even try to get things back on track. It was like watching two brothers try to hold it together during a school presentation and completely fail. And then there's Jonathan Roumie, quietly becoming the most unexpected prankster on set. You'd think the actor who plays Jesus would be the most serious, the most composed, the one keeping the others grounded. But no. Jonathan is the master of silent chaos. He doesn't need to say much, just a look, a raised eyebrow, or a whispered comment right before a dramatic scene, and the cast is gone. In one moment during filming, he reportedly mouthed the wrong lines to someone just off camera, causing them to mess up their own line. No one noticed at first, but when they finally did, the set erupted. That's the kind of humor that hits the hardest, because it sneaks up on you. It's subtle, it's clever, and it completely destroys the take. But the real highlight, the one moment that fans are still talking about, was when Luke was called to set just to show his shoulder. Yes, you heard that right. He wasn't speaking. He wasn't walking. He wasn't doing anything except showing his shoulder for a single background shot. And Luke, he owned it. He treated it like the most important acting role of his life. He strutted. Onto set, draped his robe dramatically, and posed like a Greek statue. The cast couldn't take it. Even the crew was laughing behind the camera. And when someone jokingly asked him if he needed a stunt double for the shot, Luke didn't miss a beat. He said, "Only if they moisturize." It was ridiculous. It was unnecessary. And it was perfect. These moments might seem small, but they tell you everything about the energy on set. This isn't just a cast performing a show. They're a real team. They're friends. They know how to lift each other up when things get heavy. And they definitely know how to break the tension with perfectly timed laughter. That's what makes The Chosen special. Not just the story, but the spirit behind it. The way they balance deep faith with real humanity. The way they honor their roles and still have fun doing it. And this is just the beginning, because what happened later in Season 5? Well, let's just say Luke wasn't done with his comedy takeover. There was a moment halfway through filming season 5 where something shifted. The scenes were getting heavier, the stakes were rising, and the emotional intensity was at its peak. And just when everything felt like it was teetering on the edge of too serious, the cast delivered one of the most hilarious off-script moments we've ever seen. It started with a simple line from Jonathan Roumie. The script called for Jesus to deliver a deeply moving teaching. One of those lines that gives you chills. But just before the cameras rolled, someone in the cast coughed. Not a normal cough, a weird squeaky bird-like hiccup of a sound that echoed through the silence. No one said anything but Jonathan, always calm, always centered, tilted his head, looked in the direction of the sound, and in his Jesus voice asked, "Was that the Holy Spirit?" That was it, game over. The crew exploded into laughter. The disciples couldn't stop, even the extras were hiding their faces. And Jonathan, he tried to stay in character, but the smirk gave him away. It's moments like that which prove that no one is safe when the cast of The Chosen gets going. Not even Jonathan himself. And once the laughter starts, it spreads. During that same day, there was a group scene. Dozens of cast members gathered for a crucial moment. The atmosphere was solemn. The dialogue was tense. But off-camera, Luke Dimeian was testing a theory. He wanted to see how long it would take before someone broke character if he stood just a few feet off set and started slowly dancing. No music, no explanation. Just a slow, awkward shoulder shimmy. At first, no one noticed, but then Noah James caught a glimpse. And it was over. He stuttered through his lines, then completely lost it. The entire take was ruined, and Luke didn't even say a word. That's his genius. He doesn't have to try too hard. His timing, his commitment to the bit, it's what makes him the silent comedy assassin of the show. Even in the interviews, this energy bleeds through. You can tell when the cast sits down to talk about the emotional weight of their roles, they truly care. They respect the story, but the second someone opens the door for humor, it's like they've been waiting all day to unleash it. One interview meant to be a serious reflection on filming difficult scenes got derailed in seconds when Paris Patel, who plays Matthew, started describing how hard it was to focus while Jonathan was eating chips between takes, chips not just eating them, but apparently chewing with intensity. The image was enough to make the whole cast collapse into laughter. And Jonathan, totally unfazed. He nodded as if to say, "Yeah, I chew with purpose." These are the moments fans don't always see, but they're the ones that reveal how much love is behind this show. And it's not just the actors playing the main roles. Even the background cast, the supporting characters, the crew, everyone seems to be in on the joke. There was one day on set where someone decided to swap out all the props at a meal scene with comically oversized utensils. No one said anything. The actors sat down to eat with spoons the size of their heads and forks that looked like pitchforks. It wasn't until Jonathan picked one up and deadpanned, "This must be for feeding the 5,000 that everyone broke." That's the kind of environment The Chosen has built, one where reverence and ridiculousness can exist in the same space, where laughter becomes a form of bonding, and that bonding shows up on screen. You feel it in the way the characters interact. You sense it in the trust they have with each other, both on and off camera. But perhaps the most telling moment of all, the one that proves just how far these cast members are willing to go to make each other laugh, came during a night shoot. Everyone was tired. The scene had to be perfect. The lighting was tricky, and the cast was asked to keep extremely still for a long, tense shot. That's when Noah whispered to Luke, "Don't blink," a simple challenge. But Luke took it personally. For the next full minute, Luke stared unblinking, not flinching, not even breathing loudly. The scene went smoothly until one of the crew members looked over, saw Luke's frozen face, and whispered, "Is he okay?" And again, it was done. The scene had to be reshot, but no one cared. Because that's the kind of laughter that lifts you up when you're drained. That's the kind of moment that turns a difficult shoot into a memory you'll talk about for years. This cast isn't just acting. They're living the experience together. They're carrying the emotional weight of ancient stories and still finding joy in the process. They're laughing in the hard moments, lifting each other when it gets heavy, and creating a space where humor is healing. And the more you see them behind the scenes, the more you realize these aren't just actors. They're a family. And season 5, it might be the most hilarious season yet. Not because of the script, but because of everything that happened when the cameras weren't looking. If there was ever a moment that should have been impossible to recover from, it was this one. The day Luke Dimeian unintentionally, though some would say it was very intentional, brought the entire production of The Chosen Season 5 to a halt. It started out like any normal shooting day. The sun was beating down, the crew was prepping the equipment, and the cast was getting into character. The scene was supposed to be serious, really serious. A heartfelt exchange between disciples, quiet tension, deep emotion. One of those scenes where silence says more than dialogue. But then Luke walked in wearing the wrong costume pants. And not just slightly wrong. He had on the prop department's backup tunic, 2 sizes too big hemmed in all the wrong places, and dragging behind him like a forgotten curtain. No one noticed at first, not even the director. But once Luke sat down and tried to keep a straight face, everyone knew something was off. And when the wind picked up and that extra fabric caught the air like a sail, it was over. The entire cast lost it. People doubled over trying to muffle their laughter. And Luke? He just sat there calmly sipping from a cup like he didn't understand what the problem was. That's the kind of chaos Luke Dimeian brings to set. Not through loud jokes or over-the-top pranks, but through quiet, perfectly timed absurdity. He doesn't need to do much. He just shows up and somehow laughter follows. Noah James, who's normally the calm observer of the group, said in an interview that Luke is like a comedy sniper. You never see it coming until you're already laughing. That particular day, the crew tried to reset. Tried being the key word, but Luke's oversized tunic had become a legend. Even after he changed, no one could look him in the eye without cracking up. Every time someone tried to say their lines, their voice would shake from holding back laughter. It got so bad, they had to shoot the scene from behind the characters just to avoid the visibly trembling faces of the actors trying not to break. And then, of course, Jonathan Roumie had to step in. The moment he arrived on set, the mood shifted, not to seriousness, but to suspense. Everyone was watching. Could Jonathan make it through this scene without laughing? Could Jesus himself hold it together? The answer was absolutely not. He barely made it through one line before he saw Luke off camera striking a regal pose in that ridiculous tunic, and Jonathan immediately turned away and said, "Nope, I need a minute." The camera stopped. The cast collapsed. Even Dallas Jenkins was seen walking. Off set, shaking his head, muttering, "This cast is going to kill me." But it didn't stop there. Later that same day, they were filming a walk and talk through the village. Standard blocking, dialogue flowing, everyone back in costume trying to act like professionals again. And just when things seemed under control, Luke decided to walk backwards. Not for any particular reason. He just did. And the thing is, he did it so casually, so confidently, that no one could tell if it was part of the scene. Even Noah looked confused for a second, unsure if he'd missed a script update. But once it became clear Luke was just doing it to see who'd react, the energy shifted again. Suddenly, everyone was trying not to look at him, not to engage. But it was impossible. Luke had hijacked the entire set with a walk, and it worked. Another take ruined. Another fit of laughter, and not a single person could stay mad about it. This is what makes the Chosen cast special, not just their talent, but their chemistry. Their ability to support each other, poke fun, and still come together when it counts. There's no ego here, just connection and a willingness to let the chaos in if it means building a stronger bond. And in the middle of all that chaos, Luke Dimeian has become the unofficial king of comedy. His moments don't just make the cast laugh, they make us laugh. They remind us that behind every powerful episode, there are bloopers, breakdowns, and behind-the-scenes jokes that bring life to the story. This isn't just about playing biblical roles. This is about finding joy in the journey, about letting humor be part of the message. And as we keep watching Season 5 unfold, one thing is clear. Try Not to Laugh isn't just a challenge for the fans anymore. It's a daily struggle for the entire cast. There are moments during filming that test even the most disciplined actors. And then there's Noah James trying to stay serious while Luke Dimeian is in the room. Season 5 was filled with heavy emotional scenes, moments of deep faith, personal struggle, and quiet transformation. Noah, who plays Andrew with so much intensity and quiet vulnerability, often finds himself in the most dramatic scenes. But what no one sees is how often those serious moments nearly fall apart, all because of one mischievous castmate just off camera. The most infamous moment came during a night shoot. The scene was delicate. Rain was falling, candles flickered in the background. Andrew was supposed to be quietly praying, crying even. You could hear a pin drop on set. The entire crew was holding. their breath. And then it happened. Noah inhaled deeply, preparing for his line, and from behind the camera, Luke coughed. Not a real cough. A very fake, very dramatic, over-the-top cough, something between a goat and a trumpet. And Noah broke just like that. His face twisted, trying to stay in character, but the laugh was already rising. He turned away, covered his mouth, but it was too late. The entire emotional tension shattered in one ridiculous moment. And what's worse, they tried again. Reset lights. Rain candles. Noah centered himself. Deep breath. And this time, silence. Except Luke was now standing just slightly too close, doing nothing, just standing. But that was enough. Noah didn't even get a word out before the laugh returned. The scene was officially cursed. What followed became known among the crew as the giggle loop. A simple concept. The more you try not to laugh, the harder it becomes. And Luke mastered the art of triggering it. Noah later admitted in an interview, "At some point, I just gave up. I told them we'd have to write the scene without Andrew because I couldn't do it if Luke was within 50 feet. And while he said it, jokingly, you could tell there was truth in it. The cast is deeply committed to their roles. They understand the responsibility of portraying such sacred stories. But they also understand the power of joy and how sometimes laughter is the exact thing you need to survive a long night shoot in the rain." The best part? Noah and Luke aren't opposites. They're actually the perfect match. While Luke brings chaos, Noah balances it with calmness. But when the two collide, magic happens. Whether it's offhand jokes between takes or whispered one-liners just before the camera rolls, the friendship between them is full of trust and shared humor. It's the kind of bond that can't be faked, and that bond carries into their scenes. Together, adding layers of depth even when they're trying not to laugh. There's an understanding that humor doesn't cheapen the story, it enhances it. It makes the hard moments bearable, the long days worth it, and the message even more human. And then there's the time they tried to do a promotional shoot. Simple interviews, sit-downs, no costumes, no scenes, just the cast answering questions. But the moment Luke and Noah were placed side by side, it became chaos again. Luke decided he was going to answer every question as Noah, mimicking his posture, his speech pattern, even quoting past interviews word for word. At first, Noah rolled with it, but the more Luke leaned into it, the more absurd it became. At one point, Noah just sat back and said, "You know what? I'm just going to let him be me now." And for the rest of the shoot, Luke answered both sets of questions. The footage was unusable, but unforgettable. This is what makes The Chosen cast different. They don't just work together, they play together. They lean into each other's quirks, support each other's breakdowns, and turn even the most impossible scenes into opportunities for laughter. And for Noah James, the man often burdened with the heaviest emotional scenes, that laughter is essential. It's what makes the experience real. It's what makes the show more than just a job. And when fans watch Andrew struggle, grow, and find faith again, they're also seeing an actor who just moments before was trying not to collapse in laughter behind a candlelit set. It all came down to this: the final week of filming Season 5. Tensions were high, emotions were raw, and everyone knew the scenes being shot would be some of the most powerful moments in The Chosen yet. But what no one expected, what no one could have prepared for, was the one moment that brought the entire cast to their knees in laughter. Because for all the powerful lines, the heartbreak, the miracles, nothing was more unforgettable than the day even Jesus broke character. Jonathan Roumie is known for his calm, grounded presence. On and off set, he carries a deep responsibility with the role of Jesus. He's respectful, focused, centered, but he's also human. And when surrounded by chaos, especially chaos stirred, up by Luke Dimeian and Noah James, there's only so much even he can take. That day, it started simple. The cast was rehearsing a long emotional scene, one of those moments where everything quiets, the camera lingers, and every line carries deep spiritual weight. The set was silent. The director called action. Jonathan began delivering a beautiful, soul-stirring line, and Luke just behind him quietly let out a hiccup. Just a hiccup. But it was the kind of hiccup that sounded suspiciously like a suppressed laugh. Jonathan flinched, just barely, but kept going. And then from the other side of the set, Noah choked on his water. Not a dramatic cough, just a very awkward, very loud gulp that echoed through the soundstage like thunder. "That was it," Jonathan tried. Truly. He turned his head, took a deep breath, even whispered a quick prayer. But as he turned back to face the camera, his lips twitched. And then, boom, the smile broke through. A full, uncontrollable laugh spilled out. Of him, and the entire cast erupted. Cameras stopped. Mics dropped, crew members doubled over. It was chaos. Pure, beautiful, unforgettable chaos. And in that moment, something shifted. Because when Jesus starts laughing, nobody can stay serious. Paris Patel collapsed onto the ground, still holding his prop. Liz Tabish turned away to hide her tears. From laughter, not emotion. Even the director gave up, announcing, "That's it. We've lost them." For the next 10 minutes, filming was impossible. People were crying, gasping for air, begging Luke to stop making faces. And Luke? He was completely innocent, of course. "I didn't even do anything," he claimed later. But everyone knew. Everyone knew he'd been planning that hiccup since rehearsal started. What makes this so powerful isn't just the laughter. It's what it represents. These actors carry heavy emotional weight. They dive deep into the pain, the miracles, the betrayal, the redemption. But underneath all of that is a family. A group of people who care deeply about each other, who lift each other up, and who know when it's time to break the tension with something as simple as a hiccup. When Jonathan laughed, it wasn't a mistake. It was a release, a moment of shared humanity that reminded everyone on set that The Chosen isn't just a show, it's an experience, one built on trust, joy, and an unshakable bond between castmates. By the time filming resumed, something was different. The performances that followed were even more powerful. The emotion hit deeper. And maybe, just maybe, that moment of laughter made it all more real. Because faith-like storytelling is not just about solemnity, it's about joy, it's about shared moments. It's about breaking character so you can come back stronger. So if you ever watch Season 5 and notice a tiny twitch in Jonathan's smile now, you know. That's not just Jesus holding back tears. That's an actor remembering the moment laughter took over. And the cast of The Chosen became something more than castmates. They became a family. And Luke Dimeian, he didn't just steal the show. He made the show worth remembering.